Go for it.
Hey,
Hello.
thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming over to my house to talk about these Shakespeare sonnets. We haven't done
The
this.
sugared sonnets.
The sugared
Somebody
sonnet.
called them the sugared sonnets. Somebody famous, I forget. But I mean, in Shakespeare's time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
At least the first half or the first 100. And then it doesn't get so
Gets a little
sugar.
dark.
Yeah, it gets the dark lady ones. Yeah. Which are the ones that I chose. And I don't know if I'm just in a mood or something. That's part of why I bring these ones up. But for this first one, we're going to talk about Sonnet 17.
We are.
And before we do it, we're going to have Justin
Yeah.
read the sonnet for us, and then we'll discuss the meaning of the sonnet. And
So this is Justin Scalise,
yeah,
one of our actors for Austin Shakespeare, and he acts all over Austin, which has lots of theater and lots of Shakespeare too.
Who will believe my verse in time to come, if it were filled with your most high deserts? Though yet, heaven knows, it is but as a tomb, which hides your life and shows not half your parts. If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers number all your graces, the age to come would say, this poet lies. Such heavenly touches ne'er touched earthly faces. So should my papers, yellowed with their age, be scorned, like old men of less truth than tongue, and your true rights be termed a poet's rage, and stretched meter of an antique song. But were some child of yours alive that time, you should live twice, in it and in my rhyme. Yeah, well, there's something so humbling, or rather humble, about this this particular sonnet, isn't there? He's saying that he could fill this sonnet, fill this poem with all of the most amazing things about this person, but in time people would say, oh well, no one like that actually existed. Come on. So he encourages this person who he's speaking to have a child, and then their beauty, all of their great qualities will live on through that child as proof, as well as his poem as proof.
Okay, we're back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
All right, so who will believe my verse in time to come? So what's this about?
It's kind of wonderful. I mean, it's a little bit like when you read something that you've written many, many years ago and hoping that somebody will keep your letter. So Shakespeare's writing and thinking about the future, which is something he does in a lot of the sonnets. But here he says it right there, right? Who will believe my verse in time to come? And boy,
Okay.
we're time to come, right? He's the late 1500s and he's in his late 20s. And he's thinking of himself as an older guy, but he's writing about an unknown future.
So there's a sense of posterity and knowing about posterity when you're living life, which I think it's a good reminder for us because we don't have that sense today, I don't think. Do you think we have that sense in America and the West today as individuals?
Things go away so quickly.
Yeah.
You have photos. I mean, how many photos do you have on your phone? But you don't think, oh, these photos are for posterity.
Yeah.
Everything goes away so quickly. I do want to say something about, though, these poems in the beginning that really are about procreation, right? There's a lot of what goes on in these first poems are about thinking about having your life live on in your children and encouraging the reader, because this is to one person, to think about having kids and to motivate him to do that.
So, okay, I didn't know it was about the procreation for the male that he's, because I know supposedly it's historians say it's about a male.
Yes.
That he's writing to.
Yes.
Some people say it's a male lover.
Yes.
Some don't say it's not necessarily that.
Yeah.
I don't know the evidence for it or even if that's that important
Uh-huh.
for the understanding of the poems. Do you think it's...
Some of them are very clearly, you should, pass your genes on. He doesn't think of genes, of course.
Yeah.
But, you should think about
I think we have
getting
one like
married
that.
and having children and so on.
Yeah, there's one poem that we'll be talking in this little mini series on that specifically, I believe that he says that. In this one, you're saying in this sonnet 17 specifically, he's saying, so that's interesting. This one's somewhat newer to me. I mean, I've read it before, but haven't thought about it before.
Well, my favorite is in line 5. He said, "If I could write the beauty of your eyes." I think that's just a lovely line. And he talks about in fresh numbers, and the numbers are the verse, right? The numbers of the.
If I could write the beauty of your eyes, and in fresh numbers, number all your graces.
Yeah.
Which is a nice turn of phrase. The age to come would say the poet lies. This poet lies.
Right.
So like the age to come, as in the future, will say William Shakespeare was just making stuff up. There's no person like this.
Right. Nobody could be as wonderful as you, as beautiful as you. And I mentioned earlier that Shakespeare's in his late 20s. He's looking at Southampton, we think, somebody who is in his late teens.
Oh, as a person. I see. Oh, that's interesting. So
and you know how beautiful people can be in their late teens. And Southampton supposedly had this long sort of flowing hair and so on.
And his papers are going to be yellowed with age, scorned like old men of less truth than tongue. But
his papers, again, are, he says, my papers.
Yes.
So Shakespeare's papers, not
Hampton's. Yeah. So this is about, so that's interesting. So to me, one of the questions always is, so there's this historical viewpoint of this Southampton character potential, but what's the relevance to us today, right? Like,
good question.
So who will believe my verse in time to come if it were filled with your most high deserts? So when I write a love letter to a lady, there's a sense where I hope, whether our relationship works out or not, that she'll keep those letters and maybe in her old age think back fondly on us or something. Hopefully we're together, but usually that's not how it works. But here he's actually thinking about ages to come, hundreds, like us. He's talking, one thing I like about Shakespeare and these great poets, he's talking to me in 2024. He's like, Kirk, will you believe me?
Yeah.
Are you going to believe me, Kirk?
Yeah.
That this guy existed?
Yeah.
That's how I read it.
I think that's a wonderful way to look at it. Sure.
But what's the relevance of the poem itself to me? Or is it just the historical, do you think? Do you think there's any thematic meaning that's important to us?
I mean, there's no way I can't hear it as Shakespeare, the poet, speaking through the ages to me. And there's something about literature that has that, like, you did Moby Dick recently. So you get to see inside the mind and spirit, the identity of Herman Melville. Yeah. Who is a unique person. Boy, was he a unique person. Yeah. Well, Shakespeare's a complicated person. He's not, he kind of hides a little, especially in his plays, but even in the sonnets. So for me, it's about meeting a genius. Yeah. So one value, and we'll talk about this, are like the lines you said. So you liked, if I could write the beauty of your eyes. Mm-hmm. And in fresh, I like the second part of it too. And in fresh numbers, number all your graces. Because that's a good thing to say to somebody, obviously. If I could write the number, like, that's a nice line to quote Shakespeare said, and I wish I could do this. So there's the value today of just like a beautiful turn of phrase that you can basically steal, because Shakespeare's not going to complain about it, and do something about it. Thematically, my thought for this particular poem is when I was listening to you, the reminder of posterity. Even if you're not going to be a great Shakespearean universal poet that everyone reads in 700, I mean, I think we'll be reading Shakespeare in 1,000 years from now, right? So, and as long as we're in existence. And then I think that there's that kind of value in terms of getting us that reminder of thinking about posterity, because we don't have that, I thinking of Paul Revere. There's something about his story where, like, he was aware on the night he went out to remind people, not only that if he were captured by the British, so it's the guy that went around, conquered Lexington, warning the redcoats are coming, and he handed his gun to his wife before he left, because the assumption is, one, if he got caught as a spy, he might have been executed. That's probably the practical reason.
But another reason people have said is that perhaps he was thinking about posterity and the story that would be told about him, that he was just a messenger going out into and so he wanted it to be this like known thing. I'm giving my gun up and going out and doing this, thinking about the eternality of it. And there's something about our actions we don't think about. When I take this job, am I thinking about how it'll affect 1,000 years from now, if it will? And this is a good reminder.
Thank you.